Plus £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Very good evening to you. It's 9 p.m. I'm Ben Leo. Tonight.
Oh, we all like a bad boy, though, don't we?
Yeah, not a f***ing terrorist, though, Chris.
Well, you too could be a terrorist if you happen to have any concerns about mass migration to Britain. That's according to the Home Office's Prevent programme. Also tonight...
Oh, you know what, Richard? Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Let's talk to Samina instead. I'm not having that.
Oh, doesn't he just do your head in? Man of the People Lewis Goodall accuses a caller concerned about Labour's inheritance tax raids of being entitled. Do you agree? Plus... Yes, guess who's back indeed? Just 48 hours after resigning of chairman of Reform UK, Zia Youssef has made a shock return tonight to the party. And young men in Britain are now apparently spending more than women on Botox and fillers. This was me this morning, fresh as a daisy, just out of bed. Obviously, I've not had any work done, but what does that say about the state of society? And would you judge a bloke for getting treatments? Joining me on the panel tonight is journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, the former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley, and the former Labour Party advisor Matthew Torbett. Oh, and despite her grovelling apology today, Dawn French really didn't think this one through, did she?
These people, not even people, are they really? No.
No, she didn't. A big 2 hours coming up, including the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. First, though, let's get your news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good evening to you from the newsroom. The top story tonight, just 48 hours after resigning as Reform UK chairman, Zia Youssef is back, calling his decision to quit a mistake, he says, born of exhaustion. Speaking alongside Nigel Farage, Youssef said he felt drained by relentless racist abuse online. However, after messages urging him to reconsider and what he called peace talks with the Reform leader, he now plans to take on a new role. He'll oversee policy, media, fundraising and the party's cost-cutting Doge unit. He says his commitment is redoubled and called reform, quote, the most important project of his life. The chairmanship will also now be split as the party moves from what Yousaf called start-up to scale-up. Meanwhile, tonight, Donald Trump has warned Elon Musk will face very serious consequences if he funds Democratic candidates, escalating what has been a dramatic public fallout. Asked if their relationship is over, Trump told American reporters, "I would assume so." It comes after Musk had tweeted, then deleted a claim that Donald Trump appears in the so-called Epstein files and suggested the president should be impeached. Donald Trump also confirmed he had not discussed launching an investigation into Mr. Musk, despite those growing tensions. Here, thousands have been marching through the centre of London today in protest against spending cuts and welfare reforms. The demonstration, organised by the People's Assembly, has brought placards reading "Tax the rich" and "Welfare not warfare." Organisers say public service cuts are worsening inequality, and they're urging the Labour government to reject what they call austerity 2.0. Well, our reporter Jack Carson has been in central London for us today, where Jeremy Corbyn and Diane Abbott were among those speaking.
Well, trade unionists and activists have come together here in London, united against what they say is a spending cut and welfare cutting government. They say that Starmer's government should not be cutting things like the winter fuel payment, should not be increasing the defence budget, and should be, in fact, stopping war and not welfare. Thousands and thousands of people are marching to Whitehall, where we heard speeches from Jeremy Corbyn and Diane Abbott, the first of its kind to see such a united front against a left-wing government.
The Home Office plans to spend £2.2 billion of the UK's foreign aid budget on asylum support this year. They say mostly to cover hotel costs for thousands of asylum seekers. The figure is down slightly on last year, but still amounts to a major share of Britain's overseas development. Ministers say they're urgently cutting costs and speeding up decisions to end hotel use, promising to save £4 billion by 2026. Russia has launched its largest drone attack yet on Ukraine's second city, Kharkiv, killing at least 3 people and injuring 21, including a baby and a 14-year-old girl. The city's mayor called the assault open terror, with 48 drones, missiles and bombs hitting homes and industrial sites overnight. It follows Ukraine's drone strikes on Russian airfields last weekend, which reportedly damaged 40 Russian warplanes. Meanwhile, a planned prisoner swap has also stalled, with both sides accusing each other of breaking the deal. And Dawn French has apologised unreservedly after posting a video about the war in Gaza that critics said appeared to mock the 7th of October attacks. The comedian took the clip down after it sparked anger across social media for its tone and content. Dawn French admitted the video, she said, appeared one-sided and that her intention was to criticise all leaders on all sides of the conflict, not to dismiss the horror of the attacks. Those are the latest headlines for now. Plenty more still to come right here. Don't go anywhere.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening to you. Thank you for your company. Hope you've had a good day. Well, it's been a whirlwind 48 hours for Reform UK and Zia Yousaf, who is tonight back with the party. In a shock U-turn, former party chairman Yousaf announced he'd U-turned on quitting Reform, saying he'd received a large number of messages from people begging him to reconsider. He called his decision to quit earlier in the week as a, quote, mistake born of exhaustion. But as GB News political editor Christopher Hope revealed earlier today, an outpouring of support from Reform members ultimately changed his mind.
He realised that there was life outside Twitter, outside X, of real Reform members who had a lot of faith in him. And he had a rethink. He's talked to Nigel Farage. He's coming back to the party, but he won't be as chairman. That is crucial. He's going to be in charge of this Doge initiative. There he is on screen for viewers. He'll be running this Doge, this Department of Government Efficiency, going into councils, looking for waste. He's also going to be helping with policy formation, he says to me. and fundraising, but he won't be chairman. That'll be someone else now, and there will be a deputy chairman as well, he tells me.
All right, well, there we go. More on reform and Zia Youssef to come at 9:30. But for now, good evening to all you far-right Nazi bigots who could soon be getting a knock at the door from the government's counter-terrorism intervention scheme for being concerned about the fast-changing identity of your country. Yes, that's right. It's been revealed that the government's Prevent programme may consider anyone who's worried about uncontrolled mass migration and the idea that Western culture is under threat through a lack of integration is now a right-wing terrorist. Cultural nationalism is now a bad thing, apparently. Caring about the direction of travel of your birthland is terrorism. Well, of course not. It's obvious that that's the case. Any idiot can see that. But this is the latest example of a government that I feel is gaslighting its own people into obedience and submission. Well, let me tell you something tonight. It's not going to work because although they think British people are stupid, I can absolutely assure you they're not. Nobody buys this. Caring about the systematic racist rape of English schoolgirls by Pakistani rape gangs isn't a far-right bandwagon, as the Prime Minister said earlier this year. Wanting to scrap the ECHR so we can deport criminal, illegal migrants is not akin to Nazi Germany, as the PM's mate and Attorney General Lord Hermer said earlier this month. And being alarmed at the erosion of British identity and culture at the hands of mass immigration is not terrorism. I'll tell you what terrorism is. Terrorism is the Manchester Arena bombing, where dozens of little schoolgirls were slaughtered by a scumbag who repaid the nation that gave him and his family safety by committing mass murder. Terrorism is the Islamic State sympathiser who stabbed the much-loved late MP Sir David Amess to death. Terrorism is the Islamist scumbag who mowed people down on Westminster Bridge, then stabbed PC Keith Palmer to death. Terrorism is the Borough Market attack where 5 innocent people were killed by Islamists, including this young lady from Australia, Sarah Zeleniak, who I watched bleed to death on the pavement as terrorists ran riot across London Bridge. There she is on your screen. I'll never forget seeing Sarah that night. I'll never forget her injury, what she was wearing, the way she was positioned, what was going through my mind at the time, and I still often think about her now. One of her killers, by the way, was part of the very Prevent programme that now considers you at home a terrorist. In fact, if there's anyone being terrorised here, it's the good, honest, hard-working people of this country who have been lied to, manipulated, coerced, controlled and abused by governments and political leaders for decades. The truth of the matter is that the bulk of MI5's terror watch list is made up of 40,000 or so jihadis. I'm not saying far-right extremism doesn't exist, of course not, but being concerned about the dark path your own country is being dragged down is not it. Do not let these people brainwash you into thinking you're the bad person. You're not. Let's get the thoughts of my panel now. The journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, the former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley and the former Labour Party advisor Matthew Torbett. Good evening, panel.
Good evening.
Welcome along. Hope you've had a pleasant day. Linda, ladies first. What did you make of this extraordinary revelation that the Home Office now considers anybody who's got slight concern about the fast-paced changing identity of the country as a right-wing terrorist?
It's clearly a little bit delusional, but let's face it, Prevent has never really showered itself in glory since it was first introduced. So, I mean, there have been many infringements that we know about where Prevent hasn't worked, and I think that this is another development which will lead to a fracture in its effectiveness. I think that's what's going to happen. And I think that you can't, as you said, gaslight people into thinking they might be part of some kind of terrorism plan, when clearly there is a huge amount of concern out there in society today which is being ignored by the current government. They've got natural concerns about what is happening here, and they shouldn't be turned into pseudo-terrorists.
I would say as well, I don't think it's just a Labour thing. It happened under the previous governments as well. So,
of course, yeah.
Matthew Torbett, what's your take on this? I mean, I saw this and I was flabbergasted. It comes weeks, of course, after Lord Hermer kind of clumsily, I mean, he said it was clumsy, but he wrote the speech and he spent 2 hours writing it, calling people who want to scrap the ECHR as Nazis or, you know, very close to that kind of rhetoric anyway. Keir Starmer in January saying that the grooming gang scandal was a right-wing bandwagon, calling for an inquiry. What's your take on all this?
Well, I think the less said about Lord Hermer, the better. I think the government would be, you know, far better without people like that involved. I think to give it the nuance that it probably deserves, rather than potentially hiding behind the sofa and getting a bit too worried. The Home Office is suggesting that concerns over immigration are hijacked or being hijacked by terrorist ideology. Now, what that means is you're totally entitled, from the way I see it, you're totally entitled to have concerns, you're totally entitled to potentially be worried about the country that you see maybe changing at a pace that you're not quite comfortable with, but those concerns can be exploited by those on the fringe right and the real extremists.
Who are they talking about? I mean, who's hijacking it?
I think, well...
Because I don't see that. I just see ordinary, hard-working British people concerned about the country they love and speaking up about it. I mean, to be quite fair, lots of people are speaking up far too late and too tamely, but we are eventually starting to speak up about it.
I think it's right to be concerned about people coming into this country via small boats who we don't know who they are because they're chucking passports and whatever into the channel. I think if you're concerned about immigration and your area changing because of the types of people that are living there, I think you're one step or a few steps away from somebody with nefarious ideas on the internet saying that they're all coming to take over and all this other sort.
OK. Is this terrorism? The Telegraph, the Daily Telegraph today, published a story saying that in 72 schools, no white British pupils are recorded. In 454 schools, they make up less than 2% of the student body. Is that article in a national newspaper walking on the lines of terrorism? Right-wing terrorism? Because that's the kind of thing that people who are reading this information from Prevent today are going to think they're chucked into.
I wouldn't say it's terrorism. I think that would be silly. I think...
Thank you for clarifying.
It could be... Yeah, no, I think maybe in this day and age it needs to be. I think to hide data behind potential inflammatory headlines is potentially what that is. I think, You
think that's inflammatory?
Yeah, I think...
OK. Peter Blakes, do you think that's inflammatory? Saying
do I not get to explain why? I mean, my kids won't be white British, and therefore I'm not concerned about the impact they may have on people's schooling because I will raise them to be good, upstanding members of society. Also, the people that tend to be not white in this country tend to be second or third generation immigrants. So the idea that they're not British, when I think statistics show 80% of them consider themselves British, is therefore giving a bit more of the fuller story than the idea that everybody...
So can I ask, would you say that about Japanese people? If somebody moved to Japan, if I moved to Japan today and I was there for however long I need to be to get a passport and citizenship, does that make me Japanese?
Well, the Japanese...
If you're born in this country...
Well, I know the Japanese wouldn't think so.
Well, if your kids were born there, they'd have every right to be Japanese, yeah.
So we're totally obliterating the idea of ethnicity and cultural heritage. It's all about paperwork now, is it?
No, but there's a legal framework which would suggest that, yes.
Right. Peter, what's your take on all this?
Well, quite frankly, I find it ludicrous that Matthews sits there and tries to defend the indefensible and uses the word nuance. Just for purposes of clarity here, I have the government Prevent page on my phone, OK? And you tell me where there's any nuance. Under the title, Extreme Right-Wing Terrorist Ideology, under that headline, anybody that thinks Western culture is under threat from mass migration and a lack of integration by certain ethnic and cultural groups is a terrorist. Tell me where the nuance is.
Extreme far-right terrorist ideology would come under things like the Great Replacement theory. I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about. That is the exact wording, the exact lift from the government Prevent programme that we're discussing. You tell me where the nuance is.
I've just told you. I would define that differently.
There isn't any. Everything that Ben said is absolutely bang on. Everything that you've said is trying to excuse the inexcusable.
That there are several bullet points, because I read them this morning, and that's the top one. Isn't it saying that actually people who show that tendency should be watched and are potentially a danger? It doesn't say they're specifically terrorists, does it?
Ben?
Just to be clear.
When we share a cell, I've got to tell you, I snore like a rhino, mate, so I'm getting my apology in now.
That's all right. You can call me Ben Jemima any day of the week, Peter, in a cell block. There we go. Great start. Thank you, panel. Right. Let us know what you think on that. GBNews.com/you'll say. Lots of you rightly concerned about what the Home Office are pumping out. Yeah, I don't think it's the end of the story. Anyway, up next on Ben Leo Tonight.
It's my mum's house, my dad's house, and they paid for it over the years.
But you didn't. It's their house, not yours. It's theirs. It's not yours.
And they can hand it to me.
Well, yes, and I'm sure that would be terribly convenient for you. That is that you are exactly the problem here. You are saying you're afraid so, Trevor. I'm afraid.
I cannot wait to show you this full clip. Lewis Goodall loses it with another caller. But do you agree with him that those pushing back against inheritance tax are, quote, entitled and a problem? We'll debate that next. Don't go anywhere.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Chu, Britain's news channel.
News channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo tonight, only on GB News. Now, towns up and down the country may be littered with barber shops with no customers, and there's the American candy stores that no one asked for as well. But HMRC have clearly got other priorities because they've launched a crackdown on inheritance tax avoidance. The number of families being investigated for underpaying IHT has jumped by a third in just 1 year, and that's as the Treasury becomes more and more desperate for revenue. Well, perhaps unsurprisingly, Lewis Goodall of LBC believes that anyone who doesn't want to hand over their hard-earned money to Rachel Reeves is a problem.
It's my mum's house, my dad's house, and they paid for it over the years.
But you didn't. It's their house, not yours. It's theirs. It's not yours.
And they can hand it to me.
Well, yes, and I'm sure that would be terribly convenient for you. That is that you are exactly the problem here. You are saying you're afraid so, Trevor. I'm afraid so. Because what you're saying is that you're saying, look, your mum and dad work very hard, and I respect that. I'm sure you work hard as well. But you've got to recognise that younger people work really, really hard, and they might not have someone to give them a house.
Oh, make it end. Tonight we're asking, is it entitled, as per Lewis Goodall, to push back against inheritance tax? But I'm joined now by the head of the Taxpayers Alliance, Elliot Keck, and the former editor of Labour List, Peter Edwards. Good evening, chaps. Thank you for your company. Peter, I'll start with you first. Why should somebody who has worked all their lives, they've paid tax on their income, they've then grafted to, say, for example, purchase a house which they imagine or dream of handing over to their children one day, why should the legalised mafia government come along and then swipe 40% of it?
I think it's absolutely crackers to call it legalised mafia. That's absurd. First of all, we've all got to follow the rules, you know, left or right. We all have to follow the rules. Secondly, most estates don't pay inheritance tax. The proportion of estates that pay IHT is pretty small. It's well under a third from memory. And for a couple who are married or in a civil partnership, who have a property, nothing will be paid on the first £1 million anyway. The allowance is enormous. In most people's money, including mine and your viewers, £1 million is a lot of money. That's tax-free on the estate. Where there's tax avoidance, it's completely right. The HMRC goes after it. Completely right.
So just remind us of the threshold. So it's 450, isn't it, as a single person?
No, it's 325 ordinarily, and then there's 175 for housing. For a single person, it's about 500. David Cameron changed the law on that basis. So if you're married or in a civil partnership, it's 500 each. Basically, how the coalition left it was £1 million for a couple with a property.
Well, I mean, in this day and age, especially in the South East, that's just one property. £1 million is probably one, you know, fairly decent-sized house. Elliot, regardless of the thresholds and who's affected by it, why should the state, why should the government come along and pick people's pockets like that?
I think you're absolutely right to call it a legalised mafia. I don't think that is overkill. We are talking about money seized from a family at the end of the gun, and that's what it is. If you don't pay up, you go to prison. And inheritance tax is one of the most complicated taxes in the United Kingdom. Over 1,000 pages is inheritance tax in the UK's tax code. It's unbelievably complex, and we have grieving families that may, in many cases, just have made a mistake, got a couple of things wrong, treated one exemption, inappropriately or incorrectly. And as a result, you have these HMRC investigations that we know are incredibly cruel, incredibly capricious. We know that people commit suicide as a result of these HMRC investigations. It's an absolutely appalling thing to see. It's a nasty little organisation filled with curtain-twitching, petty authoritarian malevolence, and it's absolutely disgusting. I think HMRC should hang their heads in shame.
Peter, what do you make of that? You agree?
Well, I think mental health is clearly a crisis for anyone, and it's horrifying for any family it affects. But I just don't accept it at all. I think we all have to play by the rules. And
yeah, but Peter, you sorry to interrupt. You've said that twice now. We have to play by the rules. Sometimes the rules are bent. Sometimes the rules are insane. Just look at COVID. They're telling you to walk around 6 feet from each other with no scientific evidence. Sometimes the rules just clearly don't make sense. No, but I'm saying just because it's the rules, Peter, it doesn't mean that it should be allowed to continue if it doesn't make sense.
OK, well let me give you another motivation that for close on a century, every government that's been elected, Liberal, Labour or Tory, has been on the basis of retaining IHT. So the public has again voted for a party that believes in IHT.
OK, good point. Elliot, fair point.
Well, the public have also voted time and time again for parties that say they were going to cut immigration. Inheritance tax routinely polls, and we polled it just recently, and every single time it's polled, it's revealed to be the most hated tax in the United Kingdom. Every single group that we polled, including Green Party voters, Ben, said that they'd prefer to see inheritance tax cut or abolished over
£9
being
billion
increased. £9 billion is what it's raised. It's not much money, given the government raises about £1 trillion every year. And we talk about people not abiding by the rules. People don't know the rules. They hire tax accountants that spend their whole career learning the rules about inheritance tax, and yet they still get these things wrong. We have to remember that when you receive your estate, it normally takes about a year to receive probate. That's basically the right to sell off your family's, your father's, mother's, whatever it is, their estate. It's only 6 months, at which point interest starts coming in. So you don't even get the right to sell the estate to pay your inheritance tax bill before the interest kicks in. It's a horrible tax enforced by horrible people.
OK, but £9 billion for public services. If we're cutting IHT, £9 billion Are we having £9 billion worth of spending cuts, or is there going to be another tax levied on top?
I'll tell you what you could do, Peter. You could stop sending £11.5 billion in climate aid to foreign countries. You could stop illegal migration with asylum hotels. You could stop the £22 billion. You could stop the £22 billion carbon capture scheme that even eco-zealots and eco-haters alike don't like. You could stop giving away the Chagos Islands and paying for the privilege. You could do all sorts, Peter. One thing I recommend you don't do is...
See if people support that.
Well, give it 3 years, give it 4 years. Peter Edwards, thank you very much, former editor of Labour List and the head of the Taxpayers Alliance, Elliot Keck. Thank you both. Right, we're counting down to your best summer so far with £54,321 in tax-free cash, tax-free being the key word, to be won. It's the biggest cash giveaway today, and it could all be yours. Here's all the details you need.
It's our biggest cash prize to date, and you could win it. £54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
£54,321 could make you our biggest cash winner to date. For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, very good luck to you. Coming up tonight, as you may have already heard.
Guess who's back? Back again.
Yes, just 48 hours after resigning as Reform UK chairman, Zia Youssef tonight made a sensational return to the party. We'll respond to their latest psychodrama next.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I take that.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. The heatwave continues across parts of Europe, temperatures pushing into the high 30s, and this is bringing some severe thunderstorms in places. But for many areas across Spain, Portugal, the Canary Islands, largely dry and settled, plenty of sunshine. The main risk of thunderstorms is going to be across northern Italy, Austria, perhaps southern parts of Germany, but elsewhere across the Mediterranean, staying dry, lots of hot sunshine. And this continues into next week, so feeling very warm indeed. All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening and welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So there's been plenty of heavy and thundery showers for many of us today, and there are further showers on the way as we go through the rest of the weekend, but these generally more scattered in nature. The weather fronts that we've seen through today that brought us those heavy showers clear away eastwards as we go through into the start of Sunday, but those tightly packed isobars indicate some strong and blustery winds still. Any heavy thundery showers across the southeast quickly clear eastwards as we go into the early hours of Sunday morning. 1 or 2 showers still skirting across the north-east coast, and further showers then arriving across Northern Ireland during the early hours. But for many of us, plenty of clear skies, and that does mean it could turn a little chilly in places, particularly across the northern half of the country. But it does mean a dry and bright start for many of us on Sunday morning. Across parts of Scotland, there'll be plenty of early sunshine, perhaps a few showers skirting the very far north and the very far west. Perhaps a little bit more cloud here with those showers pushing in. And across Northern Ireland, a showery start to the day too. For northern parts of England, central, southern, eastern parts of England, there'll be plenty of sunshine to start the day. But for parts of Wales, southwest England, perhaps a little more cloud around with 1 or 2 isolated showers to start. The showers we see across western areas then push their way eastwards as we go through Sunday morning, and in the afternoon sunshine we could see 1 or 2 showers bubbling up too. The showers could turn a little heavy in places, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder, but generally lighter and more scattered than the showers we saw on Saturday. And it'll feel a little warmer than we did on Saturday as well, highs in the south of 19 or 20 degrees, but it will still be a little blustery, particularly across the west. A dry and bright start for many of us then again on Monday morning. Again, some showers across western areas, these spreading their way eastwards. And again, much lighter and much more scattered than we've seen over the weekend. However, turning cloudier across the west with another area of rain arriving. And that north-south split continues as we go through much of next week with some showers, some longer spells of rain, but also turning a little bit warmer in the south too.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Now, just 48 hours after resigning as Reform UK chairman, Zia Youssef is back, calling his decision to quit a mistake born of exhaustion. Haven't we made them all? Speaking alongside Nigel Farage, Youssef said he felt drained by relentless racist abuse online. However, after messages urging him to reconsider his decision and what he called peace talks with the Reform leader, Youssef now plans to take on a new role in the party. He'll oversee policy, media, fundraising and the party's cost-cutting Doge unit. Well, let's get the thoughts of my panel now. Journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, the former Scotland Yard police detective Peter Blexley and the former Labour Party advisor Matthew Torbett. Welcome back, panel. Yes, Matthew Torbett, let's start with you. What's your take as a sort of Labour man on the reform situation at the moment?
I think it won't shift the dial much. It won't affect them negatively, any of this. I think, 90% of people who aren't really politically engaged or watching it every day, they don't even know who Zia Youssef is. So I don't think it was a bad thing in the first place. It wouldn't have hit them too much. Him being back is probably a positive. From what I understand, Zia is obviously a very bright man, and he's giving him the money as well. My concern, if I was a Reform voter, would be whether some of these people are disciplined enough to be looking at forming the next government, because...
Who are you talking about?
Well, if Zia is sort of resigning on what seems like a bit of a knee-jerk reaction and not really talk this through, this could have been something potentially, it seems, to have been sat and thought about over the weekend. Is this something I really want to do? Let's make my mind up. Instead, it seems a little bit knee-jerk, and then he's obviously regretted it and then come back. You can't really be doing that.
Well, he said he was, Linda, he said he was knackered. Nigel Farage said earlier today that he'd been working Zia Youssef non-stop since May, without a break, and probably even longer before that.
I understand all of that, but actually Matthew has a very good point here. When you are in politics, particularly when you've gone in with a new party which really has to build momentum and really had to carve its way out, you have to have a tremendous amount of diligence and mental resilience in order to withstand all the pressures. And I think he's been in here, he seems like a nice guy, he's clearly intelligent, he's donated upwards of £200,000 to the party, but he clearly does not have mental resilience, otherwise he wouldn't have reacted that way.
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. I mean, have you ever been totally exhausted where you've made a silly mistake or done something on a knee-jerk?
Then I've been 6 weeks in New York when they bombed the Twin Towers after driving for 27 hours from Miami to New York, so I do know what it's like to be tired when I go to work. So I understand that he hasn't had a holiday for 8 months. Now, there are plenty of people who haven't had a holiday for 8 months, and I'm not criticising him. I've said he's intelligent, I've said he made donations, I've said he's of great value, but I think he needs to develop his emotional and mental resilience in order to stop any worries about inconsistency over the Reform Party. Because Matthew's right, in the long run, it may well not affect the voters, but it shifts the dial in the short term. And if that continues to happen, it builds a pattern. That's called momentum.
OK, yeah, good points. Peter, I think probably the situation was he saw this, Zia Youssef saw the question from Sarah Pochen in the Commons, called it dumb on Twitter. He came out and said, what a dumb question. And I reckon he was probably just a bit dismayed about the organisation of the party in that moment. But then he said tonight, essentially after speaking with Nigel Farage, that it's a start-up party. These things happen, roles change. Have you got any sympathy for that?
Mr Youssef is a Muslim, so I'm sure that Sarah Pochin's question may have caused him some consternation.
Well, just to add on that, he said tonight to Christopher Hope that he would probably vote to ban the burqa.
Yeah, so invariably he had an element of burnout, and I think, certainly speaking for myself, when I've been tired and exhausted, I've thrown my toys out of the pram before now, and then I've woken up a day or two later and thought, was that the best thing to do? Clearly, Nigel Farage is delighted with his return.
He obviously rates him, doesn't he?
Yeah, and well, the results speak for themselves, don't they? But just to pick up on Matthew's point about, you know, some competence within the party, I'd like to see some competence within the current government, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, what would the current government be thinking of reform in this situation? You don't think it's that big of a deal, right?
Not for reform.
No. Labour? Will they use it as an attack line next week?
Yeah, probably, and they're misguided to. I saw there was lots of them getting ahead of themselves because they won in Hamilton in the by-election, and it was all reform are finished. If they're thinking that, they're totally stuck in that Westminster bubble. They need to get outside and see what people are saying and thinking. Reform are not finished by any stretch at all. If anything, you know, the momentum is continuing. I think what you said is interesting. I think that plays into the discipline argument again. If you think a question's dumb, you talk about that behind closed doors. You don't air your dirty laundry on Twitter. It's the worst thing you can do in politics, I think.
Well, I do find it very surprising that, I guess that Zia Youssef isn't an MP, but that he wasn't aware that was a question that was going to be tabled by Sarah Pochen. Her debut in the Commons, sorry, at PMQs, her debut question, I would have thought maybe, and I don't know because I've never been in that environment, political environment.
It was an extraordinary...
Why didn't he know about the question?
It was an extraordinary question to come out with because I don't think, actually, top of the list of concerns for the good citizens of Runcorn is, are women walking around the streets wearing the burqa?
That's what she said.
Well, no. Honestly, the burqa is it's a hideous garment. It's an iconic garment, but it's not worn that frequently. Really, the niqab is worn much, much more frequently, but it would never get a headline the way the name burqa gets a headline.
Did you think it was a dumb question, Matthew?
It was calculated.
It depends what the intention was. It may have got its desired intention by causing such a debate. I think most people in Runcorn that I picked up in the by-election and were bothered about the cost of living, and you can't eat by banning the burqa, you can't eat by, you know, some of the things that she's been coming out with. I think that would have been a wiser question, but ultimately there's a debate underway now.
She got airtime, though.
Well, maybe that was the plan. Peter, do you think it was a dumb question, finally?
I'm not a fan of face coverings in public. I know we all had to wear masks.
Can you, as a former copper, just explain why? Well, obviously.
Well, because I took down some armed robbers who were wearing balaclavas, and so forgive me for having a bit of some memories of...
Physically, you did that?
Of people wearing balaclavas, face coverings.
Explain to us.
And with the advances in facial recognition technology, which are considerable and are proving to be hugely beneficial in capturing wanted people, you know, face coverings, I feel deeply, deeply uncomfortable with.
What's it like as a police officer and a human being, Peter, when you have to take down armed robbers? You can't see their face, you can't really gauge an impression of them or know really, you know, do you know what I mean? You can't tell their identity, you can't form a very brief assessment of who they may be. What's it like when you're approached or tackling somebody who's got their face covered?
It's tense. We took down a team of armed robbers attacking a post office depot once upon a time. We kind of nicked the job off the flying squad that they weren't thrilled about. But in that moment, with masked gunmen, it's very, very tense, especially when I'm there holding a Smith & Wesson Snubnose 38, thinking, am I going to have to use this or not?
So you were armed as well?
Yeah.
And it might be a silly question, but the fact they did have their faces covered, did that ramp up the intensity of the situation?
It made things... it was a very tense situation anyway.
Yeah.
Fortunately, when we leapt out of the bushes and vans and cars and surprised them, they were extremely compliant.
Right.
But I don't like face covering.
Anyway, so you get Nigel Farage's point, or question at least, that it's a worthy debate because it's about public safety. Some people may feel intimidated by not seeing people's faces.
I stick to my original answer. I don't like face coverings in public.
All right, great stuff. Thank you, panel. Looking forward to this next segment. I'll tell you why in a second, because metrosexual men, yes, that's a word, with young men in Britain apparently now spending more than women on Botox and fillers. We'll have a celebrity doctor live in the studio, and he could have some cosmetic tips for me and the panel. Dr. Amir Khan joins us next. See you in 3.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Now, not mentioning any names, but a fresh report's revealed young men are now spending more on Botox and fillers than women. Apparently, 23% of men between 18 and 34 have had either Botox, fillers or dental veneers, compared to 21% of women of the same age. But they may be having to sacrifice a pint down the pub or a holiday abroad to make room for their newfound habit, because these tweakments, as they're called, don't come cheap. Botox can cost between £150 to £350 a session, while fillers cost between £200 and £450 per syringe. Botox only lasts 3 to 4 months, while lip fillers last 6 to 9. To offer his expert insight, I'm delighted to be welcome celebrity doctor and cosmetic expert, Dr. Amir Khan. Doctor, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Welcome along. This is quite incredible, really, isn't it? Men now getting more fillers and Botox than women.
It is. It's a trend we've seen over the last 5 years or so.
And certainly after the COVID lockdown, it's increased quite a bit.
So what's causing it? Is it men becoming more effeminate? Is it a lack of testosterone? Is that... Yeah, I mean, what's going on?
I don't know. I think it's a number of things. There's a huge encouragement for men to speak out a little bit more. Men are becoming more and more aware that they haven't really had the sort of input that women have had. And we're very much aware that, you know, depression and silence in men exists quite a lot. And I think what's happening is that more and more men are coming out, they're speaking out a lot more. Particularly young men. Young men are, I suppose, they're not as shy as the older generation.
Tell us then, what's the most popular treatment in your clinic? You were the Harley Street Skin Clinic?
That's right.
Yeah.
Harley Street Skin Clinic. We're now in Devonshire Place.
Yeah.
And we're seeing more and more men. And what younger men want is really to look good in their own eyes. And they're seeing a lot on social media. I think the younger population are on the social media a lot, and there's a huge pressure to look in a certain way.
Well, I was just telling you off air during the break. I said my Instagram algorithm is just completely intent on, for some reason, me getting some work done. Every ad I see on Instagram is tear trough treatment, which is, I think it's what, sorting out your bags or
it's sorting out the gap
or
here.
I mean, why is that? Why am I getting targeted like that? Is it something that I've searched? What is it? And also, by the way, I'd like to ask you, Doc, do I need it?
Well, first of all, you don't need it. Nobody ever needs any cosmetic treatment.
Yeah.
It's something that people want. And we are seeing a trend for more young people coming in. And, you know, certainly the millennials, it's a big part of their physical well-being. And they're spending more and more on how they look. And pre-COVID, there was a huge push about men with muscles, and, you know, the Instagram was showing how to have a six-pack, how to have pecs, and there was a huge push about this body dysmorphic, muscle dysmorphic type of approach. So, you know, we're now seeing more and more men concerned about their faces. We're seeing a lot more faces.
OK.
Can I just ask a question, though?
Of course.
Because I did a lot of these stories for a programme called Tonight with Trevor McDonald many years ago, when they first came in, when Botox first came in. And one of the things I was told was that it's a botulinum toxin A, isn't it, which is Botox.
Yes.
One of the problems is that when you start to inject it, gradually, over a period of time, your body does get used to the toxin you're injecting. And so the earlier you start it, the more used to it your body becomes, so that when you're much older, it simply stops working. Is that correct or not?
No, it's not necessarily correct. The toxin is very, very potent. It's not a neurotoxin. It doesn't damage the nerves. It blocks a protein that's responsible for releasing the neurotransmitter. So, I mean, we know a lot more about it now. What people get used to is their psychological perception of it. So, as people age, it's a great preventer. We've gone from the time when we're paralysing muscles to where we're relaxing and balancing muscles.
Because it had a medical use first, didn't it?
It did. It did. It was a muscle relaxant. It was first noticed when people were using it for blepharospasm, where you get a twitchy eye. We also use it in children with spasticity to relax muscles. And the doses given to children is huge compared to what we use for cosmetics.
OK. A couple of comments on gbnews.com/yoursay. Jess has said, Ben, would you ever visit a skin clinic and get a facial treatment? I've seen a couple of skin clinics that I like the look of. Yeah, a couple around the country. But, Doctor, let me ask you, if I was going to get anything, what would you recommend?
Just a facial skin clinic, good skin care.
Yeah.
Healthy-looking skin is healthy skin.
All right.
So looking after our skin is really important.
OK. All right, I know a few decent skin clinics, so maybe I'll give them a visit. Peter, what would you get, if anything?
Well, I'm very fortunate to have reached the age of 112 without having anything done and having a little look there. Yes, I think there's absolutely no need.
Well, look, I mocked something up a bit earlier today. I decided to have some fun and mocked up what our lovely panellists may look like if they opted for Botox or fillers. This is Peter Blexley, so let's have a quick look at Peter. Oh, no, that's the original. But Oh, there we go. That's the first one. Oh, there we go.
Oh, my goodness.
What do you reckon? An improvement, Doc?
I think I look a bit like Jeff Stelling at you.
That's right. Like Lord Lucan.
Oh, that's a good shout, yeah.
You look a bit like Saddam Hussein, Peter.
Yeah, I know. He looks...
Yeah, well...
All right.
Yes.
An improvement, Doc, or not?
Absolutely not.
No, OK. Next up is Matthew. Matthew, this is your original, I think. Oh, no, sorry, Linda next. Linda, there's the original. There you go. Hardened journalist. And there she's with some lip filler.
But that's not bad.
I think you look pretty good. I mean, you look good in both pictures, but you look good.
Yeah.
Yeah?
You're beautiful
Maybe you'll be in the...
you are, Linda.
Don't need to change anything.
Well, no, I think I would like lip filler, but I'm too much of a coward.
Get yourself down the clinic, Linda. There we go.
If blokes want to have puffy lips, just go down a boxing gym and get smacked in the mouth.
Or go down to a pro-Palestine protest or something. Or, yeah. Matthew, let's have a look at you. This is the original. Oh, he's a good-looking lad, isn't he?
Yeah,
there he is. But with a bit of work done.
Oh, I tell you what. Don't know about that.
Where's that scowl?
Right. Would you recommend it? And here's me this morning. So I woke up. There you go. There's me this morning. Don't ask why I was taking a picture of it. And there's me with very thin lips.
Oh.
And this is me with.
Oh,
my God.
Oh, Ben, I don't know about that one.
That reminds me of an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, that's it. It's feminised you, hasn't it?
I quite... Look, if it was the weekend and I was feeling a bit frisky, I like the look of myself. I wouldn't say no. Well, tell us, the future of male cosmetic treatments, Doc, where do you see it going? Continuing to rise? Or will, as we saw, you mentioned with steroids and so on, and people wanting to, sort of become absolutely ripped and gym junkies, that kind of faded away a bit, didn't it?
It did. And I think what we're really seeing more and more of is jawline fillers to masculinise the face. And that really is somebody who, who's got a more feminine face and wants to be more masculine. And I can understand why they might want to do that.
Can you do that just with fillers, or do you actually need surgery?
No, you can do it with fillers or surgery.
But
fillers are temporary.
Weight. If you just lose weight and get lean, your jawline naturally comes back, doesn't it?
It does, unless you've got a very narrow, bony jawline.
Yeah.
We're also seeing a lot of men who now have got a lot of weight. One of the issues we're seeing is, from a medical perspective, we're seeing a lot of men coming in wanting to lose that belly fat. And they're coming in because they're unable to do that. There's a metabolic problem that's occurring, and we're seeing people coming in for that. So we're giving advice on diet, exercise, and in some cases, also metabolic reset using
what about
injectables.
liposuction?
What, for men?
Yeah, of course they can have it.
I think they are. I mean, they can have it, but it's better to do it naturally, especially when you're young and your metabolism can do it.
Yeah.
As we get older, the metabolism slows down and it changes.
Yeah, I appreciate all the work you do, Doc, but I think when it comes to losing weight, I mean, my advice is just eat less and move more. I know the metabolism slows down, but maybe I'm just being a bit harsh. Anyway, thank you for coming in, appreciate it. Maybe I'll be at your clinic in, I don't know, 5-10 years, depending on how long the kids keep me up. And I think Linda will be in for some lip filler very shortly. Right, don't forget, you can stay with GB News all day, not just on TV, but on radio and on your smart speaker too. So listen to us on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News on TuneIn. The first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages coming up in just a tick. First, though, let's get your weather.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So there's been plenty of heavy and thundery showers for many of us today, and there are further showers on the way as we go through the rest of the weekend, but these generally more scattered in nature. The weather fronts that we've seen through today that brought us those heavy showers clear away eastwards as we go through into the start of Sunday, but those tightly packed isobars indicate some strong and blustery winds still. Any heavy thundery showers across the southeast quickly clear eastwards as we go into the early hours of Sunday morning. 1 or 2 showers still skirting across the north-east coast, and further showers then arriving across Northern Ireland during the early hours. But for many of us, plenty of clear skies, and that does mean it could turn a little chilly in places, particularly across the northern half of the country. But it does mean a dry and bright start for many of us on Sunday morning. Across parts of Scotland, there'll be plenty of early sunshine, perhaps a few showers skirting the very far north and the very far west. Perhaps a little bit more cloud here with those showers pushing in. And across Northern Ireland, a showery start to the day too. For northern parts of England, central, southern, eastern parts of England, there'll be plenty of sunshine to start the day. But for parts of Wales, southwest England, perhaps a little more cloud around with 1 or 2 isolated showers to start. The showers we see across western areas then push their way eastwards as we go through Sunday morning. And in the afternoon sunshine, we could see 1 or 2 showers bubbling up too. The showers could turn a little heavy in places, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder, but generally lighter and more scattered than the showers we saw on Saturday. And it'll feel a little warmer than we did on Saturday as well, highs in the south of 19 or 20 degrees, but it will still be a little blustery, particularly across the west. A dry and bright start for many of us then again on Monday morning. Again, some showers across western areas, these spreading their way eastwards. And again, much lighter and much more scattered than we've seen over the weekend. However, turning cloudier across the west with another area of rain arriving. And that north-south split continues as we go through much of next week with some showers, some longer spells of rain, but also turning a little bit warmer in the south too.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Good evening, it's 10 o'clock, I'm Ben Leo, and breaking tonight, the Mail on Sunday lead with a bizarre story of an 8-year-old boy who was turned away by the NHS, get this, because he's a private school pupil. Just what the hell is going on in this country? Elsewhere, reports tonight that the government will be forced to rely on migrants as they freeze funding for nursing courses. Please make it make sense. And there's more madness from our immigration courts as an asylum seeker suspected of recruiting child soldiers, can stay in Britain. Of course he can. And The Sun are reporting that EastEnders star Jamie Borthwick has been suspended after using so-called unacceptable language whilst describing the locals of Blackpool. We'll be finding out what's happened in just a tick. This Daily Mail story is absolutely nuts. Turned away from the NHS simply because you're a private school pupil. Bizarre, to say the least. We'll be getting stuck into that with my panel, journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, the former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley, and the former Labour Party advisor Matthew Torbett. And what do you reckon is going on here? We'll dig in that in just...
Those people, not even people, are they really? No.
Dawn French in all sorts of hot water. She has apologised, though. First, let's get your news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good evening to you from the newsroom. The top story tonight, just 48 hours after resigning as Reform UK chairman, Zia Youssef is back, calling his decision to quit a mistake, he says, born of exhaustion. Speaking alongside Nigel Farage, Youssef said he felt drained by relentless racist abuse online. However, after messages urging him to reconsider and what he called peace talks with the Reform leader, he now plans to take on a new role. He'll oversee policy, media, fundraising and the party's cost-cutting Doge unit. He says his commitment is redoubled and called Reform, quote, the most important project of his life. The chairmanship will also now be split as the party moves from what Youssef called start-up to scale-up. Meanwhile, tonight, Donald Trump has warned Elon Musk will face very serious consequences if he funds Democratic candidates, escalating what has been a dramatic public fallout. Asked if their relationship is over, Trump told American reporters, "I would assume so." It comes after Musk had tweeted, then deleted a claim that Donald Trump appears in the so-called Epstein files and suggested the president should be impeached. Donald Trump also confirmed he had not discussed launching an investigation into Mr. Musk, despite those growing tensions. Here, thousands have been marching through the centre of London today in protest against spending cuts and welfare reforms. The demonstration, organised by the People's Assembly, has brought placards reading "Tax the rich" and "Welfare not warfare." Organisers say public service cuts are worsening inequality, and they're urging the Labour government to reject what they call austerity 2.0. Well, our reporter Jack Carson has been in central London for us today, where Jeremy Corbyn and Diane Abbott were among those speaking.
Well, trade unionists and activists have come together here in London, united against what they say is a spending cut and welfare cutting government. They say that Starmer's government should not be cutting things like the winter fuel payment, should not be increasing the defence budget, and should be, in fact, stopping war and not welfare. Thousands and thousands of people are marching to Whitehall, where we heard speeches from Jeremy Corbyn and Diane Abbott, the first of its kind to see such a united front against a left-wing government.
The Home Office plans to spend £2.2 billion of the UK's foreign aid budget on asylum support this year. They say mostly to cover hotel costs for thousands of asylum seekers. The figure is down slightly on last year, but still amounts to a major share of Britain's overseas development. Ministers say they're urgently cutting costs and speeding up decisions to end hotel use, promising to save £4 billion by 2026. Russia has launched its largest drone attack yet on Ukraine's second city, Kharkiv, killing at least 3 people and injuring 21, including a baby and a 14-year-old girl. The city's mayor called the assault open terror, with 48 drones, missiles and bombs hitting homes and industrial sites overnight. It follows Ukraine's drone strikes on Russian airfields last weekend, which reportedly damaged 40 Russian warplanes. Meanwhile, a planned prisoner swap has also stalled, with both sides accusing each other of breaking the deal. And Dawn French has apologised unreservedly after posting a video about the war in Gaza that critics said appeared to mock the 7th of October attacks. The comedian took the clip down after it sparked anger across social media for its tone and content. Dawn French admitted the video, she said, appeared one-sided and that her intention was to criticise all leaders on all sides of the conflict, not to dismiss the horror of the attacks. Those are the latest headlines for now. Plenty more still to come right here. Don't go anywhere.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back to Ben Leo tonight. The first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages have just dropped. Let's take a look at the Independent. The headline is The Pride List 2025. Is it Pride Month? Must be.
Yes.
Right. You got much planned, Peter?
No, but looking at the faces on the front page of the Independent, I only really recognise David Hockney, of course, and Tom Daley. If David Hockney wanted to paint me a picture, I'd be thrilled. And if Tom Daley wanted to crochet me a jumper, I'd wear it with pride.
Yeah, look, they're all great people, but I don't really care who you sleep with. So, I mean, yeah, whatever. Let's move on to the Mail. This is a big story. Boy, 8, turned away by the NHS because he is a private school pupil. I mean, this is bombshell. MPs say Labour's raid on fee-paying schools has triggered a class war and pernicious discrimination in our public services.
What I want to know is why would the doctors be asking what school the kid went to?
Maybe they didn't. We'll get stuck into this in just a second. Maybe there's some more detail we can deliver. But I think the mother is saying that it somehow came out that the child was at private school, and eventually she says that they've denied him treatment for his crippling joint condition because of that fact. But let's take a look at the Observer quickly. Another front page I quite like, actually. I've got a deep love for the ocean and the seas and sea life and wildlife. Deep trouble is the headline. 90% of UK marine reserves bottom trawled, 300 species threatened with extinction, China's fleet dumps more fish than the UK eats, and David Attenborough wins support to save the seabed. It's interesting, this front page, because you get the likes of Just Stop Oil, Extinction Rebellion, really, in my view, really diluting the environmental argument, genuine environmental arguments, for example, taking care of our oceans, with the claptrap they do on climate change and climate alarmism. They put so many people off with that stuff that genuine issues like this just go ignored. Let's go back to the Daily Mail front page. The panel's back with me. Linda Jubilee, Matthew Torbett, Peter Blexley. Welcome back. The Mail, Matthew, what do you make of this? 8-year-old turned away by the NHS because he goes to private school, apparently.
Yeah, a bit like Linda. I thought I've playing football broke many bones growing up. I don't think I ever gave my school to the NHS or was asked what my school was, so I have a bit of scepticism.
Could have been wearing a blazer that was readily identifiable, for example.
But again, I've never heard of anyone being turned away from NHS treatment for
This would
any
be
reason.
elective treatment. This isn't treatment. If you think about it, he's got a crippling joint condition, which implies elective treatment and not that he went to the ER. So how would they know what school he went to?
Let me just read you a few paragraphs from the front page. So it says, an outraged mother has accused the NHS of shocking discrimination after her 8-year-old son was denied vital treatment just because he goes to private school. Tory MPs described the move as morally indefensible and a symptom of Labour's vile class war, while the parents attacked the unfair two-tier decision as a blatant breach of the health service ethos of offering equal treatment for all. Yet her case is just one example of private pupils being refused access to NHS services unearthed by the Mail on Sunday. So apparently there's more examples. Yeah, Peter?
I wonder if sufficient evidence could be gathered to make a case for misconduct in public office, because the crime of misconduct in public office is very unique in so much as that you don't have to actually do anything to be guilty of that crime. So, in other words, not treating him could be, there could be a case for that. It would be, I think, unprecedented, but I'd be interested.
It would be good to find out, though.
Matthew, what do you take of these accusations, not just in this story, but generally with this Labour government, that there's a class war going on? You know, they've gone after farmers, they've gone after pensioners, presumably because they think they vote Tory. That's the argument anyway. Is there any weight behind that?
I think the winter fuel thing, I think I said at the time, seemed to be taken from one group that probably vote Tory more than any other group, and obviously gave a pay rise to public sector workers who tend to vote Labour. So, yeah, you're sort of securing your voter base.
And I guess the raid on private schools, the VAT.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing with what Labour have done in the first 12 months is, for sort of a group of quite technocratic people, what they've led with is quite ideological. And in a way, shouldn't really be a priority for most people in this country. I totally get the argument over private school fees and charitable status and all this sort of stuff. I just don't think that's what I'd be wanting to do straight out the traps.
I mean, the
personally.
thing is, it's become a sort of totemic policy where private schools are concerned. It's emblematic. But the fact is that those people who work, the majority of them who work really, really hard to pay school fees for their kids, are also paying their tax as well. So they're paying twice over to make sure, and some of those parents have got children with special needs, which will be catered for much, much better in the private sector. So I don't really see why they've gone so hard for those parents, because it doesn't get much revenue into the coffers
Politics of envy.
Well, yeah, of course, I think so. And Ellie Costello and I did breakfast on Thursday. We spoke to Bridget Phillipson, who did the morning round.
Oh, I saw, yeah.
Bridget Phillipson, and we've got the clip later on in the show, it's my fail of the week. She said that the government is banking on the falling birth rate to free up space in state schools, which to me was absolutely insane.
Did she say that?
She said that on air. I had to clarify. I said, sorry, Education Secretary, you are saying it's official government policy that you're banking on the plunging birth rate to free up space in state schools. She said, yeah. I mean, it went viral. The clip's done nearly 1 million views online. We'll play it later on in the show.
Yes, I look forward to that.
If you want something else that's shocking as well, get a load of this news story. From our asylum court. So an asylum seeker suspected of recruiting child soldiers for the Tamil Tigers has won a human rights case to stay in Britain. So the man had previously been denied asylum in France because of the allegations, but now in the land of milk and honey in the UK with our activist immigration judges, all Keir Starmer's mates, he's been allowed to stay, Peter.
And Kemi Badenoch has kind of highlighted that this week about her desire to see the UK leave the European Convention on Human Rights. But it's very complex because, of course, 70 years or more of this convention is woven into so much of our legislation. For example, the recent EU-UK summit that Starmer was trumpeting from on high and talking about the trade deal, much of that is dependent upon the UK remaining compliant with the European Convention of Human Rights. The Northern Ireland Agreement, for example, the Good Friday Agreement, that is in certain regards dependent on our fawning in front of the ECHR. So these are complex matters which can't, I think, be unpicked or undone quickly. But certainly Badenoch has, I think, made the right noises this week.
She was very clear this week, actually. I thought that her content and her delivery was vastly improved in that speech she made midweek on this subject. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I think she sounded pretty much as though she'd pull us out of it.
Well, I got some stick because I criticised... I mean, it was Keir Starmer style. It was a review into a review. Just commit to it. I know her point was that, you know, we don't want to do things just like Brexit, saying get Brexit done and just to have a rash decision. But I think it's quite clear by now, and it's generally accepted, that the only way you're going to stop the small boat crisis is by leaving the ECHR. So why do you need to do a review into it?
Well, I think it's generally accepted that when it was first set up, it worked. But actually, modern life has changed so much over the years and that it hasn't moved forward in order to cope with what's going on.
Yeah, it was 70 odd years ago.
That. It's 70 years ago.
Yeah, Winston Churchill's vision of that convention was for a world which was a very, very long way away from what we are now, and I'm sure that he would be spinning in his grave if he saw how that convention is being abused to allow criminals to stay in this country because their kids don't like foreign chicken nuggets.
I've spoken to friends who I would think are perfectly liberal-minded, and they think that actually we might need to pull out of it. It's not that they're very right-wing at all.
Matthew, just going back to Kemi Badenoch and the Tory situation, why can Robert Jenrick commit to putting out the ECHR but Kemi can't?
Because he's running the Tory party.
You think he is?
Yeah, no, I think whether you're in opposition or government... even when we were in opposition, the only way you would talk about a policy would have to be signed off by leadership. So either she's signed it off but doesn't really want to talk about it, which doesn't seem right, or he's freewheeling and she doesn't really want to pull him back in because he's dangerous. He's totally on manoeuvres and she's going to be out very shortly.
Yeah,
so I think that's what it is.
Who do you think Keir Starmer would fear more, Kemi Badenoch or Robert Jenrick?
Nigel Farage. I don't think he'd fear either of those.
Not Jenrick?
Jenrick appears to be making the reform argument better than reform, so whether he can revive their fortunes a bit. I think the problem for the Conservatives is they've got a bit of a credibility problem. If you bring up immigration, people will go, well, you let everybody in. If you talk about the economy, they'll go, what about Liz Truss? So I think for them, they've almost got to settle with the idea they've got to have 5 or 10 years out and build back some credibility.
No, they don't have to have 10 years out.
Oh, don't give us 10 years of this shambles.
No.
So you might have reform in 5 years. I think you'll have reform in 5 years. You won't need, you know, five more years of Labour.
Peter, thank you. I thought you were going to say something else then.
I did as well.
On that bombshell, we move on. We're counting down to your best summer so far with £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. It's the biggest giveaway today, and it could be yours. Here's all the details you need to win.
We're kick-starting summer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14, PO Box 8690, Derby, DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, good luck to you. Coming up, David Wooding, the former editor of the Sunday Express, and Adid, my colleague at The Sun, is going to be joining us for more front pages. And just breaking on the Mail Online, Elon Musk has made a so-called stunning U-turn by claiming that his revelation that Donald Trump was in the Epstein files. Anyway, he's taken it back. He said it's not true. So, yeah, just a little gaffe there from Elon Musk, which he's taken back. Very good. Back in just a tick.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Amy, how did you get into this beauty stuff?
It's a good story, actually. I moved here years ago. I married a lovely Scotsman, and I was acting for a while, and then I was producing. And while I was producing, I needed a part-time job, and I got a job presenting beauty products at QVC, the shopping channel. And I was given a hair removal device. And although we did millions of pounds of sellout shows, they were oftentimes returned. Not due to my bad selling, but simply because they didn't work, or people didn't like the smell of burning hair. And I thought to myself, people want a dermaplaner. They don't want this 250-pound device. So at the time, I was bringing over these dermaplaners from America to the UK because I couldn't find them in store. And then I thought to myself, light bulb moment, let me start manufacturing them because I truly believe everyone needs a dermaplaner in their routine.
A dermaplaner, that's the future.
Dermaplaner.
But you're from America, the US.
Yes, I'm from New York originally.
And, don't like to bring this up, Amy, but somebody tells me, I think it's James, our producer, that you were a career criminal back in the day. Is this true? Let's just put this to bed.
Okay, it's semi-true. Career criminal.
Semi-true.
Semi-true.
Okay.
I did get issued a summons.
Okay.
I was a bartender briefly. And I had to do community service for a day. I was issued a summons because there was a sting operation at a bar that I was working in as a bartender. And I served someone underage. The legal drinking age is 21.
21, yeah.
And it was super busy. I didn't look for his license. Next thing I know, I saw a cop flashing his badge.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, don't you have criminals to arrest, not me?
Proper criminals. But
Proper criminals!
We believe in second chances here on GB News, especially on this show. And this is why we've got you behind the bar, even though you've got a dodgy past. You put that to bed, haven't you?
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo's Tonight. I'm delighted to be joined by Fleet Street legend David Wooding. David, good evening. Thank you for your company. Should we talk about the front page of your old newspaper, the Sunday Express? British Army too small in a dangerous world. I mean, I feel like I've seen this story a million times in the last 6 months, David.
Yeah, it seems an odd splash, this, because it seems to be looking backwards. I mean, what you do in a Sunday paper is you give the readers something they don't know about. But they're looking back to something that's happened in the past week, the Strategic Defence Review, which came out Monday, Tuesday. This was a splash for last week before the news came out. What don't we know here? British Army too small in a dangerous world. Well, we've had days raking over how we're underfunded in defence. We've had the Defence Secretary going out saying he's going to improve spending in the military. We've had Mark Rutte, the NATO General Secretary, telling us how Britain's got to pull its weight and the rest of Europe. And here we have a bit of a tame. I must say, I can only see the front page here. A bit of an interview with Jeremy Hunt, who's done an interview, incidentally, in this morning's Daily Telegraph, telling us that we need to boost our army a little bit. Well, yeah, maybe we do, but I think we've been over that one a little bit.
What would you were the former editor of the Sunday Express, David. What would you do if a journalist came in and said, David, this is my pitch for today. I think this could be a front page. What would you say to them?
Well, I don't think a reporter would come with the story and you'd say, yeah, it's good, it's page lead. Yeah, put it inside the paper. It's a follow-up to a story, but yeah. I mean, the whole defence issue has been covered in such depth this week that you really need a real bombshell of a story to make it on the front page, I think. There's better stuff around today. The Mail on Sunday story, for instance, is a cracking splash.
Yeah, what do you make of that? So we did just discuss it, but very briefly, 8-year-old turned away by the NHS, allegedly, because he's a private school pupil.
Yeah, well, this is all what we've seen, that Labour's class war, putting VAT on school fees. There was a story last week about a child in Edinburgh who was in hospital and was refused tuition while in hospital because he goes to a private school. And there's another case inside the Mail on Sunday tomorrow about a child from Somerset who was told, well, if you can afford to pay private school fees, you can afford to go private in the NHS. And this is just a shocking revelation. I mean, we're told by the Labour Party that the defending, and we're told by the Tories and everybody else for that matter, that the defending the NHS and the principle of free at the point of use. Well, here's a child who needs help, and it doesn't matter whether he goes to private school or not, he should be treated.
Yeah, and by the way, it's a child as well. We're not just, it's a kid. Don't turn away a kid, regardless.
The letter is shocking. That when you read the letter inside the paper, explaining, well, we don't treat people who go to private schools.
So just to clarify, it was an official letter from the NHS, from doctors, saying verbatim, we're not treating you.
If I can remember rightly, when I glanced over it, because I've only just caught sight of it, it was the Richmond NHS Foundation Trust. I think it's the Richmond and Twickenham or something like that it's called.
Wow.
But it was the local NHS trust.
All right, well, that's going to blow up tomorrow, certainly. David, let's talk about Kemi Badenoch. She has said, let bosses ban the burqa in workplaces. So she's saying, look, leave it down to businesses. If they want to ban the burqa, let them get on with it.
Well, this is another story that's been running a little bit this week, but Kemi Badenoch's now waded in. Of course, it was Zia Yousaf, the Reform UK chairman, who quit and is now unquit 48 hours later after the the new MP for Runcorn and Helsby, Sarah Picton, said that she would ban the burqa, or asked, in fact, to be more accurate, in PMQs, whether the government was going to ban the burqa. Well, Kemi Badenoch's come out and said there are more important things to do than banning the burqa. But she said if businesses want to ban it in the workplace, she would support that. And she weighs in on other issues on culture wars. For instance, she says things like sectarianism and first cousin marriages and also Sharia law are much more important issues when it comes to integration in this country than wearing of the burqa. She believes people should have freedom of choice to wear it, wouldn't bring in a law, but nevertheless, when she holds surgeries, she insists that people remove any face coverings, because if they want to come in and get advice from her, they shouldn't have it on. She also points out as well, Ben, that in France, where they have banned the burqa, and don't forget that question that was asked of the Prime Minister is, are you prepared to follow other European countries and ban the burqa? In France, where they have banned it, integration is even worse than it is in Britain. So that's another reason Kemi Badenoch doesn't want to go down that road.
Yeah, we had the awful story of a French teacher, was it last year or the year before, who was beheaded by a pupil because he was falsely accused of drawing the Prophet Muhammad. But, France is another level. David, thank you for your company. Really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll catch up next week.
Pleasure.
Thank you, mate. Right, coming up, Dawn French has today issued a grovelling apology after mocking the victims of the 7th of October massacre in Israel.
These people, not even people, are they really? No.
You know, I just don't understand the mentality of these people. They're always from the left of the argument as well. You know, let's think of Joe Brand and battery acid and Nigel Farage. It's not funny. It's not funny. It's pathetic. Anyway, see you after the break.
Good evening and welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So there's been plenty of heavy and thundery showers for many of us today, and there are further showers on the way as we go through the rest of the weekend, but these generally more scattered in nature. The weather fronts that we've seen through today that brought us those heavy showers clear away eastwards as we go through into the start of Sunday, but those tightly packed isobars indicate some strong and blustery winds still. Any heavy thundery showers across the southeast quickly clear eastwards as we go into the early hours of Sunday morning. 1 or 2 showers still skirting across the north-east coast, and further showers then arriving across Northern Ireland during the early hours. But for many of us, plenty of clear skies, and that does mean it could turn a little chilly in places, particularly across the northern half of the country. But it does mean a dry and bright start for many of us on Sunday morning. Across parts of Scotland, there'll be plenty of early sunshine, perhaps a few showers skirting the very far north and the very far west. Perhaps a little bit more cloud here with those showers pushing in. And across Northern Ireland, a showery start to the day too. For northern parts of England, central, southern, eastern parts of England, there'll be plenty of sunshine to start the day. But for parts of Wales, southwest England, perhaps a little more cloud around with 1 or 2 isolated showers to start. The showers we see across western areas then push their way eastwards as we go through Sunday morning, and in the afternoon sunshine we could see 1 or 2 showers bubbling up too. The showers could turn a little heavy in places, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder, but generally lighter and more scattered than the showers we saw on Saturday. And it'll feel a little warmer than we did on Saturday as well, highs in the south of 19 or 20 degrees, but it will still be a little blustery, particularly across the west. A dry and bright start for many of us then again on Monday morning. Again, some showers across western areas, these spreading their way eastwards. And again, much lighter and much more scattered than we've seen over the weekend. However, turning cloudier across the west with another area of rain arriving. And that north-south split continues as we go through much of next week with some showers, some longer spells of rain, but also turning a little bit warmer in the south too.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo tonight. More front pages have just dropped. Let's look at the Sunday Mirror tomorrow. Mother's joy after Mirror story. It's a miracle my boy's been found. This is the story of a mother whose son went missing for 6 weeks and thankfully he's back home. Good news. The Sunday Telegraph. Badenoch, let bosses ban burqas in offices. We just discussed that with David Wooding. Zia Youssef returns to Reform UK 2 days after exit. And this one at the bottom here, which we'll talk about. The NHS will rely on migrants as nurse training is cut. So the government's cut funding for nursing courses in a move that risks undermining its pledge to end the NHS reliance on foreign workers. And The Sun on Sunday. A good one if you're into your showbiz. Actually, it's quite a good talker regardless. Vile jibe at Blackpool. EastEnders star has been axed over a slur on the disabled. So EastEnders star Jamie Borthwick was last night suspended by the BBC for using a slur against disabled people while on the set of Strictly Come Dancing. Maybe we'll talk about that as well. First of all, though, welcome back to the panel. Linda, Matthew, Peter. Shall we discuss this story in the Telegraph? At the very bottom there, NHS to rely on migrants as nurse training has been cut. Linda?
Yeah, I know, that's really worrying. I mean, the fact of the matter is that as things stand, we need immigration to support the NHS. We don't want to be in that position forever, but we're in that position now. So we can't afford to keep cutting and cutting and cutting while we still need that inflow of immigrants. So... And on top of that, I think it appears to be that the government has cut funding for nursing courses. Yeah. So they've actually stopped the pipeline to get nurses into our hospitals. So none of this really makes any consistent sense. Why would you do that?
Yeah, it says, Matthew, ministers have quietly frozen grants that are paid to universities to help them cover the higher costs of training medical workers. Critics reacted by warning that the move, which represents a real terms cuts, would worsen an already difficult situation.
Yeah, I mean, this is something, it's very disappointing. I think what I would have loved to have seen a Labour government do is to reverse much of what the coalition did, which was they stopped NHS degrees being free. They also stopped tuition fee maintenance grants. They became maintenance loans. So nurses and all the rest of it and NHS workers of the future were lumped into the rest of everybody else. Therefore, people are they're more reluctant to go on and potentially study to be a nurse because nobody really wants to end up with 50, 60, 70 grand's worth of debt. I think what we should be doing is encouraging people to go and get these degrees if this is the way they've got to do it, but also potentially have a stipulation where you've got to work in the NHS for 10 years and we'll wipe your debt if you're going to do it that way.
If it's not a degree and it's just supporting training, that's what you should be doing if you intend reducing the number of immigrants coming into the country to fill those posts.
Well, I don't think
they do. That is the refrain from the Labour Party.
Yeah. Nurses don't need degrees, same as police officers don't need degrees. Yeah. But it's all part of the intellectual snobbery and the grip of academia that repeated governments have fallen under. If they had on-the-job learning with an element of classroom, like they used to, they wouldn't get in that debt, we wouldn't have this kind of funding dilemma, and I think nursing training overall would be better.
But you'd still have to fund it, and if you're cutting funding, you're cutting the pipeline.
This also just exposes I call it, the scam doom loop of immigration. So they let millions of people into the country and they say, oh, no, we need more schools or we need more hospital funding to cope with this influx of migrants. So they get migrants over to fill the working gap or to build homes or whatever, or to work in the NHS. And then they say, oh, no, we've now got even more migrants in the country. We need even more to help support them. It's just it's a scam doom loop that keeps perpetuating over the decades. And before you know it, you've got a population explosion of 10 million over 20 years.
Another problem with nurses with degrees is that they think that wiping people's backsides and changing dirty beds is beneath them, which is why we had to invent a whole industry of auxiliary workers.
Oh, really? Is that true?
To do that, yes.
So you're saying nurses with people with degrees didn't want to do
Nurses,
that kind of stuff.
with their degrees, saw that wiping people's backsides was beneath them. It didn't used to be 40 years ago.
Right.
It was very much a part of nursing, how you learnt the job.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Another day, another two-tier row. This time it involves a pro-Palestinian protester who was arrested after being filmed chanting, "I like an organisation that begins with H." But get this, they've avoided prosecution because they told coppers that the organisation they were referring to in their chant was the Home Office. Right, you couldn't make it up, could you? Have we got a quick clip of this? No, we haven't. Linda, what do you make of that? I mean, come on. You're going around chanting that I love an organisation to do with H. You're at some protest, at a Palestine protest. Do they think we're stupid?
Well, they certainly... I wouldn't say they think we're stupid, but the fact of the matter is that's really cocking a snook at the law, isn't it? I mean, it's perfectly obvious what the organisation is that begins with H. Why were they allowed to get away with it? That's the question. Why and how?
How would that come about, Peter? You'll know better than most, because we all know what's gone on here, essentially. But is it a case of you can't prove beyond reasonable doubt that this is definitely what they meant? Is this how they've got round?
Well, just some context. Sorry, Peter, to interrupt. It might help your answer. This guy was a Kuwaiti refugee who was granted asylum here. So I guess has an affinity with the Home Office.
Many people go to court and in an effort to get off the charges, they might spin a yarn. This perhaps has a smattering of that, although I wasn't in court. I couldn't possibly say. And also, the evidence might not have been as comprehensive as it needs to have been. Then perhaps that kind of defence wouldn't even have had any wiggle room.
OK, well, look, talking of pro-Palestine and the Israel-Gaza situation, Dawn French, who apparently is a comedian, or was a comedian, caused some controversy this week with these comments about the Palestine-Israel conflict. Take a look.
Complicated. No, but nuanced. But, you know, bottom line is no. Yeah, but, you know, they did a bad thing to us. I mean, I don't know, yeah, but no. But we want that land, and we don't know, and there's a lot of history, and we got, you know, no. Those people, not even people, are they really? No.
Well, it's important to say Dawn French has apologised today for the video. She deleted the tweet. She said her intention was never to mock or dismiss or diminish the horror of what happened on October the 7th, describing it as a brutal, unthinkable and unforgivable savage attack. However, I would like to know, Peter, whether this is just a common occurrence amongst the BBC types. They all seem to be quite happy to venture into the realms of borderline anti-Semitism.
Well, I never watched The Vicar of Dibley, and I wouldn't have watched that if you hadn't brought it to my attention. Manifestly foolish, idiotic. Why is there such a desire for her to go on social media and speak about this subject?
Yeah, but it's how she spoke about it, because I'm quite a big fan of hers, actually. But I'm really worried when earlier today I watched this. I thought, is she actually mentally OK? She sounds ill. She sounds really fragile. That's what worried me about it.
I don't know, she's getting on a bit now. Matthew, what's your take?
I saw it and just, I just thought a bit of an idiot, really. Like, what more can you say?
Why would you
I wouldn't like to speculate, but, you know, is she drunk? Is she, like Linda says, is she unwell? Is she... Because no one in the right frame of mind would go and act like that about such an atrocity, and to sort of try and diminish it into... I don't know if she was trying to be funny. I mean, her agent's done her a favour with a very good apology there, but, like, she's bizarre. Really.
Do you think this is a BBC problem, though? Because we see it from, I mean, Gary Lineker. I know he's gone now.
It's a class problem. It's a class problem. It's elite types. One, feeling like the world has to know what they think, as if it bears any weight or importance on any of us. And two, if she doesn't speak, we're all going to wonder what she thinks. I don't care what Dawn French thinks about October the 7th. I've got a mind of my own and eyes of my own to make my own mind up. So I don't know why she's done it and decided to weigh in right now, in that manner especially.
Yeah, all right, OK, let us know what you think about that. gbnews.com/your say. More front pages coming up after the break, and our big weekend fails. If you're not familiar, it's the part of the show where we pick a moment from the week which we all think was an epic fail, and we individually discuss why. Back in just a tick.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
The heatwave continues across parts of Europe, temperatures pushing into the high 30s, and this is bringing some severe thunderstorms in places. But for many areas across Spain, Portugal, the Canary Islands, largely dry and settled, plenty of sunshine. The main risk of thunderstorms is going to be across northern Italy, Austria, perhaps southern parts of Germany, but elsewhere across the Mediterranean, staying dry, lots of hot sunshine. And this continues into next week, so feeling very warm indeed.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Health programme that turns back the clock. Promethean Longevity is a wellness company with a difference. Using a combination of science and fitness, it aims to reduce people's biological age.
We take their initial tests and work out their biological age, and we take a history of their exercise, what they're eating, and then we make a bespoke programme that's kind of personalised to each participant, and that will guide them through 6 weeks of diet. Everything that they eat will be planned, their exercise is planned, we can help with supplements, anti-ageing protocols for things like sleep, skincare, kind of all aspects of ageing really.
It comes as life expectancy in Yorkshire is one of the lowest in the country, according to the ONS.
Well, a man born in Yorkshire can expect to live almost a decade. Well, in certain parts of Yorkshire, let's be more specific, can expect to live a decade less than someone born in certain parts of the south. That's pretty significant. People in Yorkshire can expect to be in poor health for the last 20 years of their life. And England as a whole, I mean, for one of the richest nations in the world, we lag behind Europe in terms of life expectancy and health expectancy, which is really the crucial thing to us, really. It's not about how many years you live. It's about living those years with some kind of quality of life.
62-year-old Debbie Shaw reduced her biological age by 17 years on Promethean Longevity's 6-week programme.
I lost 1.5 stone on their diet, and that's something that I just kind of accepted was older age. I'm a menopausal woman and we put weight on. I started off at 56 and I ended up at 39. And I feel 39 again.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. One more front page has just dropped. It's the Sunday Times. It's a decent one. White House warns number 10 on China embassy. So the White House has warned Downing Street against allowing a Chinese embassy to be built near sensitive financial sites in the City of London. So the plan for the super embassy was blocked by the previous government after British intelligence warnings about its location and the espionage risk. But it's not been revived. Sorry, it has been revived after personal lobbying by President Xi. Interesting this. What's your take, Peter Blexley? You're be familiar with intelligence and espionage and so on in the City of London.
Beware of all things Chinese, especially in this day and age. Utter nonsense to think that they could build a state-of-the-art super embassy almost in the heart of the financial district. Stop it. No, thank you. Build it elsewhere.
So what would your advice be to the government then?
do not allow them to build it in that location. Build it somewhere else and get our bugs in first.
There was that warning from the MOD, Linda, a few weeks ago to any personnel, any MOD staff saying, do not connect your mobile phone's Bluetooth to any Chinese-made cars because it's at high risk of being siphoned, the data.
I mean, I hate to say this, but I think to the Chinese, spying is as natural as breathing. I mean, you've got to be very, very, very careful because it's a kind of way of life. It's gone on for decades.
Matthew, just talking of the White House, so in the last couple of minutes or last hour or so, Elon Musk has rode back on his claims that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, basically called, well, essentially Trump a pedo. Anyway, he's rode back on it and said, sorry, I'll take it back. And you mentioned something in the break as well. What's happened with... Oh, Trump has warned...
Trump has issued a warning now to Elon Musk. He said... I think he clarified that it would be a very big, grave mistake for Musk to be offering funding to any opposition to sort of him, mostly meaning the Democrats. If there was any ideas in his head of doing such a thing, he better beware, basically. It's interesting language. And I thought I mean, to be fair to Elon, we've all had a big night sometimes and maybe sent texts that we regret and whatever.
Oh, yes.
But I also think it said more about him.
The US, are we?
Well, no, but also I think if you really thought somebody was that way inclined that he accused Trump of, fancy funding him to get to the White House,
and also,
if you really believed that.
Great point. And also, don't let your young child hang around.
Well, quite, yeah.
What's he called? Little X.
Little X, apparently.
Around the Oval Office. OK, interesting. I do love the drama. It's like an episode of EastEnders, but on a global scale. Right, time now for Big Weekend Fails. This is the part of the show where we pick one moment from the week that we thought was an epic fail. I'm going to start. I presented Breakfast on GB News with Ellie Costello on Thursday. It was great fun. We had Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, on the morning round, and this is the moment she said that pretty much that they are banking on the falling birth rate in Britain to free up space in state schools.
A change in terms of the birth rate. So we're going to have fewer children and young people coming through state schools anyway because of the fall in the birth rate.
I'm sorry, when you talk about the birth rate, are you mentioning the fact that the birth rate, of course, is plunging? You're banking on the fact that British people, at least, aren't just having children anymore and you're factoring that into your plans. Is that what you just said?
It is. So we've got falling rules in our schools. So we've got fewer children moving from primary into secondary.
I mean, Matthew, that clip went viral, by the way, nearly 1 million views on X. People just couldn't understand it. What's your take as a Labour man?
We should be incentivising people having children.
Exactly.
The reason why people aren't, and actually I suppose similar to the doom loop you spoke of earlier, if people are having less kids, we're going to have to rely on more people that aren't from this country to do the jobs of the future, unless it's robots or otherwise.
Because we'll have less people earning money and paying tax in the future.
Well, totally.
It's a demographic time bomb.
It affects us all. When I'm old and grey, I'll be really worried about it. There'll be, nobody supporting me. Is my pension going to be a thing? Bizarre line to take, if I'm honest.
What's your thoughts generally of Bridget Phillipson as an Education Secretary?
She's got leadership ambitions. She's worried that Angela would be the person that would beat her to the unions. She's been looking for someone that can get her in touch with the unions. She's very cold, lacking in personality, but is one of the more organised, believe it or not, behind the scenes of Labour. She's bright.
Linda, quickly, before we go to Peter.
I just don't think she joins up the dots when it comes to actual overall policy. She doesn't seem to string one thing along with the next thing in a way that makes sense to the voting public. OK, well, at least to her credit, she comes on GB News and answers the questions and appears, which is can't be said for some Labour ministers. Peter Blexley, this is your fail of the week. Just talk us over these pictures. What's going on here?
OK, so this week we had yet more searches of land in Portugal in the hunt for evidence relating to the disappearance of Maddie McCann. And I, like many people, would love to see a satisfactory conclusion for this baffling case. But this week, after it would appear no evidence was found, the Portuguese, to their media, released a story which is so preposterous and so ridiculous that it's laughable. They claimed that there was some intelligence that suggested a couple, German woman, British man, both of them a pair of drunks, were driving home and the woman hit Madeleine and killed her, and they then took the body out to sea and disposed of it that way. There are so many just incomprehensible
What do you think
flaws in
happened
that.
to Madeleine?
I wish I knew. I hope one day we'll find out.
Yeah, I spent around a month or so in Portugal and Germany, actually, working on the Madeleine story. Very similar to this situation going on this week, just searching farmhouses and things with the police. It all seems a bit pointless, sadly. Right, who's next? Is it Linda? Linda's next. Let's take a look.
But I'm not going to follow her down that line.
I mean,
so what was that, Linda? Just clarify.
So that is Sarah Poaching asking the question in the Commons about could we ban the burqa? Now, her question, whether or not you think it's a really good question to be asking on behalf of her constituents, and there is some argument about that, she did deliver it properly. She was assertive. She's wearing a great colour, all plain cream, loaded grey suits. She spoke well, all going well. Keir Starmer then replies to her, and I'm baffled by his response. I mean, he sounds shaky. He sounds nervous. He can't roll with the punches. He is then... he's refusing to answer the question and quite openly says, I'm not going down this line, which is dismissive. He then doesn't address her properly, which is against Commons protocol. And he then starts to revert yet again to Nigel Farage, which is what he's been doing in recent weeks, where he once mentioned Farage 16 times in one speech. All in all, it was a disastrous piece of communications for him.
Matthew, does Keir Starmer have a woman problem? Because he said to Sarah Poaching, what is it, welcome to your place? Or,
yeah,
I mean, that sounded a bit strange.
I think that's sort of Commons tradition or whatever. I think, in my experience, Keir Starmer's got a people problem. He's not very good at small talk. He's a very awkward man. And I think doesn't really know what he believes, hence the stuttering. There was several answers like that in PMQs on Wednesday, of which he couldn't get his words out. It was very bad. I thought, is he tired? Has he had enough or what? Like, it was very poor performance on Wednesday.
All right, Matthew, this is your fail. People standing behind politicians. Let's take a look.
And therefore of living standards. The single greatest barrier that businesses told me was standing in their strategy and the 10-year infrastructure strategy, bringing together government, business, recent numbers.
OK, so what's going on here? Why do we do this now in this country? We've just put ordinary civvies behind politicians.
It's sort of Americanised. We've imported from there, I think. I think, one, from an optics point of view, you're turning your back on the workers. If we're really sort of looking at it that deep, I think you should be doing that.
Good point.
I think you should have a wide-angle lens, and occasionally it would pan out and the workers are around you and they're looking, and you don't need these people, and it's always
Americans can do it quite successfully because they often do it where there's many people behind the person who's speaking, when there's only four.
And they support the person as well. Peter, if you were standing behind Rachel Reeves on that clip, that moment, what would you be doing?
I'd have refused to stand behind her. I'd have refused to stand behind her.
No, so you had to?
No, I'd have had this argument, this discussion with the boss. What, are you going to force me?
Well, you're sacked.
And what if I don't?
You're sacked.
I'll take you to tribunal. Because I didn't want to stand behind Rachel Reeves. Yeah. I think I might just win that tribunal.
What would you be doing, Linda?
What would I do? I would remain really impassive and I just would not react one way or the other. And I know how to do that.
I would be telling everyone to move. Nobody should do this. Even back to the point, Boris Johnson and Priti Patel gave a speech in the West Midlands to a load of passing out police people, and one of them, it was so hot, and they spoke for so long, they passed out behind them. It's never a good look. You can never plan for who's going to be stood there, what's going on.
Whenever you do it in media training, and I did a lot of this with the first responders, the one thing you say to them is always watch what's behind you. It's the one thing.
Any signs, any slogans you're covering, or words you're covering, which
support or nobody. That's the bottom line, I think.
OK, right, coming up next is headliners. Leo Kearse is on standby. From one Leo to another, what's on the show, my friend?
We've got a cracking hour coming up ahead. So Zia Youssef is back in reform. And Kemi Badran, this comes after the furore over Muslim women possibly being forced to not wear burqas. I don't think it's something that the government should be telling them what to wear. That's for their husbands to decide. Also, Diane Abbott has called Keir Starmer racist. I wonder if Diane Abbott has ever seen anything she hasn't called racist. And we're going to be talking about Tommy Robinson being chucked out of Hawksmoor. Is it just snobbery?
Great stuff. Thank you, Leo. Look forward to that. Thank you to my panel, Linda, Matthew and Peter. And, of course, thank you, the lovely viewers at home. I'll be back tomorrow from 9 p.m. Headliners is next. First, your weather. Good night.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So there's been plenty of heavy and thundery showers for many of us today, and there are further showers on the way as we go through the rest of the weekend, but these generally more scattered in nature. The weather fronts that we've seen through today that brought us those heavy showers clear away eastwards as we go through into the start of Sunday, but those tightly packed isobars indicate some strong and blustery winds still. Any heavy thundery showers across the southeast quickly clear eastwards as we go into the early hours of Sunday morning. 1 or 2 showers still skirting across the north-east coast, and further showers then arriving across Northern Ireland during the early hours. But for many of us, plenty of clear skies, and that does mean it could turn a little chilly in places, particularly across the northern half of the country. But